Hi, this is Lance Hood, and welcome to Better Businesses. Every day, there are companies with new, innovative ways to help you cut costs, save time, and reach far more customers than ever before. We call these companies Better Businesses. On today's call, we're going to talk about how Gmail and Outlook are great for basic email communication, but to be truly effective as salespeople, we need additional tools such as email templates, tracking, drip campaigns, follow-up reminders, meeting scheduling, even the ability to integrate with Salesforce. Cirrus Insight saw this need and created a plugin that essentially converts Gmail and Outlook into a feature-rich, dynamic tool for salespeople. And because they're so good at what they do, Cirrus Insight quickly earned the title as the #1 rated email productivity software and shot straight to spot 41 on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies. Today, we're speaking with the COO of Cirrus Insight, Brandon Bruce, who's the recipient of the Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award and is also known for racing his bike over 500 miles across Death Valley. Brandon, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a bunch, Lance. Great to be with you.
Brandon, I don't know what I'm more impressed with. #1 on Inc.'s fastest growing companies, the #1 rated productivity software, or racing your bike over 500 miles through Death Valley.
Well, both have been a lot of fun, and perhaps they're more similar than most of us would think. My experience, at least, and we're a software company, so we do sprints all the time, right? We break the work down into sprints. But at the end of the day, my sense is that building a business, hopefully a sustainable one, is much more like an endurance race. You got to keep pretty good speed the whole time. You can put in some big efforts, but it's mostly our staying power that creates things that are of true value to our customers.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to give everybody a chance to meet you, can you share a little bit more about yourself and what brought you to Cirrus Insight?
Yeah, I grew up in a really small town in California called Los Olivos. I went to a grade school that had outhouses. I was in a class of 2. So this was out in the sticks. So I always joke with people that I was either #1 or #2 in my class. It's hard to say. And now I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. So it's kind of interesting coming out here as a California kid. A lot of people would picture, the Hollywood sign, big media companies, or the Golden Gate Bridge and the bustling Bay Area tech scene. But really, I grew up in a very rural, remote area, very similar to lots of parts of East Tennessee. So I'm in Knoxville, which has a very, fast-growing technology and innovation scene. We're just down the road from University of Tennessee, which is a major research institution, and then down the street from Oak Ridge National Lab, which is famous for its role in the Manhattan Project back in World War II and continues to maintain the United States nuclear arsenal and has the fastest supercomputer in the world. So we feel very lucky to be here. We've assembled a great team as part of Cirrus Insight. My co-founder, Ryan, who's the technical architect of Cirrus Insight and runs our product and engineering team, is in Irvine in California. So we're a split company. We do sales, marketing, and operations from Knoxville. We build the product, design it, and engineer it in Southern California, not too far from Disneyland. But Ryan and I have been great friends for 18, 20 years now since we met early on in college. We used to build websites together and sort of try to get projects off the ground and build things on the internet. But it was just 6, 7 years ago that Ryan had the idea for Cirrus Insight to build something meaningful inside Gmail that would connect with Salesforce and make it easy for sales teams to work faster and track their sales better. And so he reached out to me, and the two of us jumped straight in and started building it back at the end of 2011. We launched, and then we've been on a pretty nice growth trajectory since then. And of course, it's been a roller coaster, like any startup is. So we've had some ups and plenty of downs. But overall, we've been able to build a company that we're proud of, and we love working with the teams that we built both in California and Tennessee.
Nice. And just for everybody who's listening in, as we get started, it's going to be easier for you to understand what we're talking about if you go ahead and click on the link below the video, and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. Brandon, what were the changes in the marketplace that contributed to the creation of Cirrus Insight?
I think it's interesting when you look at email. People have said when Facebook came out, that's the end of email. Or when Twitter came out, that's the end. Or now more recently when Slack came out, like, oh, this is a better way to communicate, that's the end of email. What I always like to remind folks is for any of those services to join any of them, you need to have an email address. So email is really a foundational technology for the internet, and it's still the primary way that most of us interact with the outside world, which is to say our customers, our partners, our vendors. So while we may use internal tools like Google Hangouts and Slack, and we may use social tools among our circle of friends and communicate with kind of the broad public outside world, like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, we really use email to transact between customers. That's where we receive customer inquiries. That's where we respond to them. That's how we send out contracts when we get them signed. That's how we handle a lot of, first level customer support. So for us, what we started to notice in the market is a lot of new companies and some existing companies were adopting G Suite, Gmail, for their business email. So it wasn't just about having a personal Gmail account. It was about using it for business. And then meanwhile, Salesforce, the Salesforce.com platform, was growing very fast. More and more businesses were going to the cloud, right? A term that Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, coined years ago when he started the company in the late 90s. And so what we saw is, okay, we've got these two very fast-growing cloud platforms, Google and Salesforce, but there was no meaningful connection between the two platforms. So if you got an email from a customer, you didn't really know much about that customer unless you left the browser tab, went to a new browser tab, opened up Salesforce, searched for the customer, found the right search result, and looked up their information. And so we saw a gap there and the ability to save people a lot of time by simply putting a side panel inside of Gmail. And like you said in the intro, that's now available for Outlook as well, and we have some mobile apps too. But putting that side panel inside the inbox, so as soon as you receive an email or as soon as you go to write an email to a prospect or a customer, all their information that you have for them that's stored in the CRM database inside Salesforce is available to you without having to leave the inbox. So really the feedback that we've gotten since we launched 7 years ago is, thank you, this saves me a lot of time. I'm a salesperson, I'm a support person, I'm an operations person, I'm working fast, I'm handling 200-300 emails a day sometimes, and to not have to switch back and forth between two platforms is really, really valuable. I can respond to my customers faster, they're happier, and as a result, the whole company runs better. Meanwhile, managers are happy because we make it really easy for folks that work in sales and success and support to put good data into Salesforce. Any database is only as good as the data that it contains. So it's a classic garbage in, garbage out platform. You don't put anything in or you put in bad data, you're not going to learn a lot. Your reporting is going to be flawed. We enable people to put good data in from that side panel. So you can save emails into Salesforce, you can sync your calendar events, you can add new leads and contacts into your pipeline, update opportunities, et cetera. And so we make that easy so now managers have better data to try to run their companies more efficiently and effectively. So that was the gap that we saw. And when we got it out to about 1,000 pilot users back in 2011, the feedback we got was, number one, here's like 100 or 200 features you ought to add to this application. Like we have lots of ideas for ways that you can expand. And so it really helped to define our roadmap for the next 12 to 24 months. But the really important piece of feedback was, this is good already. This is already valuable to us. You need to add a lot to it. You need to fix some things, but it's good enough to launch and we would pay you for it. So that really got us over the hump of thinking, hey, we think we created something useful. We're using it. We think it's good. But maybe it'll just be good software out there that will just kind of float around the internet as freeware. Meanwhile, people said, no, this adds substantial value. We're willing to pay for this. We want you to keep adding features to it. And that enabled us to get a full-fledged company off the ground.
Well, then who is this for specifically?
So our application is really used for anybody in a customer-facing role, which is to say, since we're largely based on the Salesforce platform, many of those people are in sales. So sales teams would be the number one cohort of users of Cirrus Insight, but also increasingly support teams that work directly with customers, and then often what companies are referring to as success teams. So think account managers, folks that are responsible for taking care of your existing customer base. Our software is extremely useful for them. So for companies that use Salesforce, it's very much an integration application that provides a level of productivity in the inbox and the calendar. Cirrus Insight is also available for people, because you might have plenty of listeners that don't use Salesforce. So if you don't use Salesforce and you're thinking, what about me? Is this relevant? It is. If you're in Gmail, and you want to take advantage of sort of a next level of features for your inbox and for your calendar, then we have a lot of great options for you. So if you if you take a step back and look at email, it really hasn't changed a lot for 30 years. You can receive email, you can send it, you can, reply to it, you can forward it, you can add attachments onto it, and that's about it. You can thread it a little differently between different email platforms and so forth, but it really hasn't changed. So what we've tried to do is add on kind of the next level of email intelligence, if you will. When you send an email, you want to know if the recipient actually received it. So we embed a tracking pixel in that email, and you can get alerted as soon as the recipient opens the email. How many times did they open it? What time of day did they open it? Where were they located when they opened it? And that way you can try to follow up appropriately. Or if they never open it, you'll know that email didn't work. I need to try a different email, different subject line. Maybe I need to try calling them instead, or go old school, send a postcard. So it gives you kind of that intelligence back versus just sending an email and hoping that it was received, hoping that it was opened. You'll actually know. Similarly, we track the links inside the email. So if you send a link to somebody that says, hey, check out our website. We'd like you to take a look at our offerings. If they click on that link, we'll tell you, hey, they clicked on the link. They were interested in what you sent them. And from the attachment perspective, rather than putting an attachment on an email, which the recipient may or may not see, may or may not open, even if they open it, may or may not go through the entire document. Instead of doing that, we provide a service where you can put the document, whether it's a PDF or a PowerPoint or a Word document, into a central cloud hosted repository that we call Attach. And then you just get a link for it and put that link in your email. So as soon as the recipient clicks that link and opens it, it'll say, hey, Lance just opened up the PowerPoint slide deck that you sent him. And I can actually go in real time and watch as you browse through the deck, right? So if it's a 10-slide deck, a presentation, a pitch, a proposal, I can watch you view it. I can see if you forward it to anyone else inside of your company. And that way I know, hey, this is really resonating, or it's partially resonating. You got to slide 7 and then you abandoned it. You stopped going. You never actually got to the pricing proposal at the very end. So maybe I need to reorder the deck, reshuffle it, reconceive of my pitch. So those are a few features we have. And then we enable you to create email templates. So for those people that are consistently writing a version of the same email over and over to different recipients, why not make that a template that you can reuse and even send up to 500 people at a time through Gmail over and over again? So that's a force multiplier. Rather than having to do the manual work, the data entry of rewriting the same email over and over, you can create a powerful template with personalized merge tags and run a mail merge, just like you would for printed letters, or just like you would between an old school Word document and Outlook. You create a template and just merge those emails out so that each recipient, hi, first name, it's great to learn more about company, I want to reach out to you about our product, et cetera, and all those get filled with the right fields. And then inside those same emails, you can put a link that makes it really, really easy for the recipient to schedule time with you. And this is one of the number one things that's worked for our company. It's a feature that I love when people send me these emails. But essentially, it enables you to embed your calendar availability into an email message. So you can say, hi, Lance, are you available to meet? Would any of these slots work? Monday at 3 p.m. and 3:30 p.m., the following Wednesday at 11 a.m., 11:30 a.m., et cetera. And as soon as you click one of those links to say, this time works for me, automatically goes on your calendar, automatically goes on my calendar. The meeting is fully booked. So it totally gets rid of that, 20 to 30 email back and forth when we're trying to decide what day of the week works best, what time of the day, what time zone are we each in. So we handle all the time zones, we handle all the calendar conflicts, and we just make it really, really easy for people to schedule meetings with each other. So it gets rid of all that friction. So I think between those kind of inbox power tools and the calendaring, the scheduling power tools, we really tried to take the base level, like you described in the intro, of Gmail and Outlook, which are good email tools, and make them, truly powerful tools for customer-facing professionals.
Yeah, it's like converting those simple email tools into full CRMs.
It is. Yeah, it's trying to make it really good for end users to communicate with their customers. And the great thing is their customers appreciate that. When you receive an email that makes it easy for you to schedule a meeting, you feel like your time's been respected. You feel like you got to choose when's most convenient for you. So instead of the salesperson saying, how about Wednesday at 8 o'clock, the salesperson simply saying, I've got lots of availability. And in fact, you can even put a link to your full-blown calendar on a web page and let the customer go and choose a time. So they can't see your actual appointments, but they can see when you're free and when you're busy. And we schedule almost all our meetings that way. We're saying to our customers, anytime you want to meet with us, you can go to our calendar and choose a time that's convenient for you, and we will meet you there, online inside of a video screen share or for a phone call, or if they're local, they come to the office or we'll meet at a Starbucks, right? So we're trying to do our best to eliminate the friction that we found was basically endemic in day-to-day email and calendar conversations that we were having with customers.
Well, by adding the calendar stuff, it really seems like you've actually taken other third-party applications and just added them right to the system. So there's no need to have some of these other things like calendars and stuff because it's already part of Cirrus. Is that true?
Yeah, well, it relies on, in this case, the Google Calendar or the Outlook calendar is really the master data. So you're still scheduling on that calendar. But what we're doing is through the API, we're saying, what's the availability on that Google Calendar, and can we efficiently send it out by email, or can we post it to a website and make it very easy for customers to choose time? So we still rely on, the core Salesforce platform, the core Google platform, the core Microsoft Outlook platform to do what they do very well: run email, run calendars, run CRM. The role of our application, the role of Cirrus Insight, is to help streamline that entire process, make that workflow clean, so that it's not, now I need to leave my inbox and go check the CRM for customer information. Then I got to go back to the calendar, see when I'm available, manually type out that availability into an email and send it. But then I'll never know if the recipient actually received the email. So there's these areas where you're basically flying blind. Did they open the email? Do they want to meet? Did they even see the attachment? Did they get caught in a spam filter? All the areas where we're saying previously, gosh, we don't know. We don't know what happened. We have no visibility. We're trying to give ourselves and our users the ability to see what's going on so that they can be more effective. And when you learn, that a certain subject line is working better than another, or recipients really like to be able to choose to schedule time with me this way, then you really know you never go back to the older way, because it's saving you time. So it's good for you, but it's also making your customers happy, which at the end of the day is what we're all trying to do.
Well, yeah. And what you were just saying about time is, I think, one of the ideal things. As a person who's got to reach out to lots of new prospective customers on a regular basis, if you're spending so much time, losing track of who you've spoke with, where they're at, if they've opened the email, it's just so much more convenient to be able to just quickly move through your list, reach a whole bunch of people, know if people are following up, know where they're at in your proposals. I mean, just really I think makes you effective.
Yeah, someone came into the office the other day and was making just an overall business statement that it's often the smallest things that make the biggest difference. And I think that's certainly what we notice about our own application with Cirrus Insight. It's a small thing to know, did someone receive the email that I sent them? Did they open it? Did they open it repeatedly? Maybe they opened it 25 times in the last 5 days. It's a really good indicator of their level of interest and their level of engagement. So it's a small thing to put a 1-by-1 tracking pixel in that email, but it's a big thing. It makes a big difference for the salesperson to know this is an interested prospect. This is one that deserves concerted follow-up. This has a strong likelihood of maturing into a closed deal down the line, versus I have no idea if this email was any better or any worse than any of the other emails that I sent out today, and I sent out 200 of them. So it's a great way to measure that level of engagement, so you know how to prioritize your time. That's the big commodity that all of us don't have enough of, is time. So our application is designed to be a way to save time, certainly, and a way to maximize the time that you do have to focus it on the folks that are most interested in doing business with you.
Do you have a reporting feature that will allow people to see all this stuff at a glance?
Yeah, so if you are a Salesforce customer, we pipe all of this data into Salesforce, and you can use their rich reporting tools to really get a sense of exactly what's going on. So I will say, as a rhetorical question, we will often ask organizations, hey, as a baseline, how many meetings did your sales team have last week? As it turns out, that is a very, very difficult question for 99% of organizations to answer. Because it's like, well, whether their team has 20 or 200 or 2,000 salespeople, they'll say, well, we've got a whole sales team, but we don't make a practice, nor do we have the time of looking at their individual Google or Outlook calendars. It would take way too much time and energy, and it would be manual work. Meanwhile, if they install Cirrus Insight, we sync all those calendar events into Salesforce. We relate them to the right prospects and customers, and then rolling that report takes about 10 or 15 seconds. So it's very easy. So for Salesforce customers, that's fully dialed in, and you have really rich reporting options. For non-Salesforce customers, we also put that information inside of the application itself. So if you're in Cirrus Insight, inside Gmail or Outlook, you can see reports, 7-day report, 2-week report, monthly, 3 months, et cetera, that show you, here's how your email opens are trending or not. Here are the people that are opening the most and the least. Here are indicators of which links are resonating with the recipients of those emails. And then, like I described before, for the attachments, we actually have real-time tracking. So you can really view, along with your recipient, a slide deck or a proposal. So, let's say it's a 15-page proposal, and the person gets to page 12, where your ask is, where your pricing is. Sometimes customers of ours will say, well, that's when I call my customer, is to say, hey, I just wanted to follow up and, see what you thought of the proposal. And then it's, well, as luck would have it, I'm looking at the proposal. Well, it's actually not luck, right? You knew they were looking at it. So this is a great time to say, oh, wow, okay, well, that's lucky. While you're looking at it, do you have any questions? Right. So rather than wait for 24, 48, 72 hours for the customer to come back and say, yeah, I did look at the proposal. Actually, I got around to it, but I do have some questions. I'll work on writing those up. I'll get you the questions next week. You preempt that and you go straight to it and say, hey, while it's open, let's walk through a few things. Can I answer any questions live? Because, that's moving at the speed of business. You want them to get their answers as fast as possible. And that's also, at a level self-serving. If they have their answers, they'll sign faster and you've got your deal faster. So it's that level of kind of analytics and intelligence, if you will, that we try to deliver for our customers.
That's impressive. So what you were saying, too, is that you could trend all the meetings for your entire sales team on a regular basis and see how many are being done, but you could also see maybe how many meetings were done per person?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see done by person, by team, by business unit, by your entire company. And then I'll point out, that's very threshold level reporting, right? I think where it gets really exciting for us and for any organization, for our customers, is when you start connecting that with outcomes, so actual business results, as well as with workflow. So to give an example on the outcomes is, okay, so now we know how many meetings the sales team had last week. At the end of the month, let's look at that report again and see how many of those initial, first touch meetings matured into closed won sales. And then we can say, okay, is one salesperson better than the rest at doing that? Is one sales team better than the rest? What can we learn from those folks versus are some people having a lot of meetings, but they never mature into sales? Why is that? Maybe they just got unlucky for this week, but if it's always the same, maybe there's something systemic going on that we can address to make that person happier. If they're closing deals, they're happier, they're making more money, they're having more fun, and it's better for the organization. So connecting it up with outcomes is very important. And then as part of that, connecting it up with what we'll call workflow is important. So after first touch meeting, as soon as that syncs into a system of record like Salesforce, then automatically trigger off follow-up email from marketing that describes the rich history of our business and why we're here to serve our customers. Or as soon as we notice that someone has opened an email more than 50 times, by workflow, assign them to our top salesperson, because this person's really interested and we want to put our top closer on them to make sure we get that deal across the line. So it's that workflow aspect based on the activities and engagement that happen through Cirrus Insight. You can run that workflow to really make your business operate faster and better.
Well, can you share a customer experience of someone who's used your product specifically?
Yeah, and I'm not going to mention them by name. They're one of my favorite customers, but they've said, while we'd love to be a case study customer, we consider it a competitive advantage in our market to be using you, and we don't want our competitors to use it. So we wanted to respect that. But they came to us originally in a moment of pain. They had just not lost a bid for a project, big construction company. They had not lost a bid for a project. They had failed to bid on the project because they missed the deadline. They didn't have visibility into the deadline. And so what the CEO did is say, hey, this was like on a Friday, hey, by Monday, we need a solution so that all of our calendars are syncing into our main CRM, Salesforce, so that we can keep track of all these bids. Because if we don't bid, we can't win. And if we don't win, we're going to turn the lights off, right? And so we got contacted on Friday and said, hey, let's get this going over the weekend. It's no problem. Our implementation is extremely fast, right? People can install Cirrus Insight from our website in 2 clicks. They could turn on calendar sync in a click. So we had them up and running right away for somewhere between 100 and 200 users. That data started syncing to Salesforce, and that way they could stay on top of all their deadlines, never miss a bid. Because what was interesting is if you try to calculate, okay, they missed a bid, what exactly does that mean? How much was that worth to them? Well, the bid was for like, $5 million construction project, and they had a win rate, let's say, of like 20%. So if you back the numbers out, you would say missing that bid on paper was worth like $1 million, right? Versus having a couple hundred users come on Cirrus Insight, very, very small fraction of that. So really easy and fast ROI for a company to say, we have this need. We never want to miss a bid. We can't afford to miss a bid again. Sync all our calendars. That way we'll never miss a bid. We can run workflow on it. And with Cirrus Insight, we can do all sorts of other stuff too. We can track our emails. We can schedule meetings faster. So all that for them was icing on the cake. That was gravy, to mix food metaphors. But the core thing for them was we got to keep track of these bid opportunities to make sure we win.
Mm-hmm. What are the typical questions people have when it comes to getting started with Cirrus Insight?
I think the big question that any of us have when we talk about software is, okay, can I try it? I want to prove that it will work for me, not just for all the companies and I see their logos on your website, but I want to make sure it works for my use case in my inbox, for my workflow. And so for us, from the beginning, 6 years ago, we try to make it very, very easy for people to get started and try the application and make sure that they like it, make sure that it serves their needs. So, from cirrusinsight.com, it's like 2 clicks to install the Cirrus Insight extension for Chrome or Firefox if you use Gmail. And it really only takes a couple more clicks than that to install in Outlook or Office 365. So the barrier to entry, since it's cloud-based software, the barrier to entry is very, very low. Anyone can try it. Anyone can use it. So frequently, our sales will come up, from the bottom up. So these are salespeople that are like, this is useful. This is saving me time, and it will bubble up to management. And they'll say, gosh, we should buy this for the whole team. And then sometimes it will bubble down. So we will get a company in the process of making a change. They're moving email platforms. They're onboarding onto Salesforce, or it's just time to make a change to improve their overall sales culture and productivity. And so they will come and they'll find us, usually their leadership team. So like a director of sales, a VP of sales, a Salesforce administrator, sales operations, or sales enablement person will come and find our app and start the conversation. And then they will then roll it out to their full team, which they can do on an individual basis and choose which users have it and which don't, or they can even push it out to a team of any size. So you can take the extension or the Outlook application version of Cirrus Insight and send it out to really an infinite number of users. So regardless of whether your organization has 5 users and it's faster just to send all 5 to the website to install in 2 clicks, or you've got 5,000 users and you want to push it out to their machines so that when they come in on Monday morning, you can simply announce, hey, there's a new feature in your inbox. It's great. It's going to help you work faster and better. Here's the onboarding video. Here's the manual if you need it for reference. But here are all the great tools that this application provides, and we'll be around to get started. And we're going to have webinars over the next week to get you going with it. That's a really easy way for an organization of any size and any technical ability to get started right away.
That's what I was going to ask is it's 2 clicks to get started. And with seeing results, I mean, are you saying that within the first day, it's easy to start using it and actually getting the results of saving time and connecting calendars almost immediately?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly recommend as soon as you install it, flip on email tracking. That way, the next email you send when the recipient opens it, you'll get that dopamine hit, that positive feedback that says, hey, a person just opened the email. And then, oh, wait, they opened it again, and then you can check your statistics dashboard and say, 3 days later, they're opening that email a lot. They must have flagged it. They're really considering the value proposition or the proposal or whatever it is that you sent them. And based on that knowledge, you can follow up. You can call them. You can send them a follow-up email. You can add them to the pipeline of, this is a deal that has legs. They seem to be truly interested. Based on that, for a lot of the features like email tracking, like scheduling meetings, where you just click a link to put your calendar availability into an email, those are really instant kind of ROI things. As long as you're willing to try those features, you should see the results immediately. Some of the other features are also very fast to set up. If you have an email that you're sending all the time, let's say you're in customer success and it's the same email you send to all of your new customers to say, hey, welcome aboard. We're happy to have you here. We want to give you the best service possible. I want to introduce myself. Here's my contact information. Take that email and just put it into a template in Cirrus Insight. That way, instead of copying and pasting it or rewriting it for each customer, you click that template button, choose the template, mail merge it in, and send it right out. And those are things that, you can save time in that on the first day, but you really notice the time savings after a week or a month or 6 months when you've said, wow, I've used that template 500 times. How long would it have taken for me to copy paste or for me to rewrite that email over and over again? So I think you can get that instant ROI, which is a very positive sign, right? And leads us to say, if this is useful this fast, I can spare the small expense, buy this application and use it. But then you'll continue to see accretive results over the course of several months. And especially if your entire team is using it, because then I, as the customer success manager, could write a template and share that template with my entire team of 50 customer success reps. And that way, none of them have to rewrite that email ever again. None of them have to cut and paste it. And it's approved content. It's coming from the manager. And it's saying, hey, here's the template we're all going to use to send out to our customers. And that work's done. So you start to get, kind of a classic economy of scale where a manager or an organization can push out, here's sales approved, marketing approved templates that we can all use. And you put a few dozen or a few hundred of those type templates into the system. Everyone uses them all the time. And that drives a lot of efficiency. And those are results that you can see over the course of, weeks, months, and years, because it just continues to compound on itself.
What about getting started help for somebody who's new or an organization that's new? What do you have available to really show people the system and get them started?
Yeah, for us, it's a combination of two things. Many customers these days really want to drive the entire process on their own. We've noticed that, and I think it's interesting. So for those that want to self-serve, we've got a whole library of quick 20 to 30 second instructional videos that walk people through each feature. And we've got pages dedicated that this is how it works in Gmail, this is how it works in Outlook, this is how it works on our iOS or Android application for your phone. But we also have a really, really excellent customer success and support team. So we've got over 15 folks that are certified Salesforce administrators. They know their way around Salesforce. They can understand what companies have done to customize their organization with custom objects, custom fields, record types, pick lists, et cetera, and make sure that Cirrus Insight, which will automatically align with those changes, by the way. So if you customize a Salesforce org, Cirrus Insight will read that information and automatically present to your users what they should see. Our team here is to help say, okay, great. How can we make sure you get maximum value from the platform? Do you want all your emails being saved in a Salesforce or just some of them? When they do get saved, what do you want to happen? How does your team work, and how can we step in and improve little sections of the process, which again, it's those little changes, right? Fixing or addressing 2 sections of a 10-step process that makes a huge difference because the process as a whole sees that improvement across potentially a very large team. So we've got a team here that does onboarding and continuous, training and updates for our entire customer base. And that's how we get folks started with the application.
Very nice. Do you have any other customer experience stories?
It's amazing. We've had the opportunity now over 6+ years. We serve over 5,000 organizations and about 250,000 end users. So the stories are really infinite. You get everything from, a 10,000 seat multinational corporation that's using Cirrus Insight in many languages across many time zones to sell potentially thousands of different product SKUs to their customer base, to the local attorney's office, the local consulting firm that has 2 users that are working with each other closely. Maybe they're partners, maybe it's a founder and an assistant, and they're going to market and they just need a power tool to force multiply their efforts, right? There's just 1 or 2 of them. And so they're trying to reach out to the market and touch as many people as possible and do it in as short a time as possible. And so our application, thankfully, can serve both, which I think has been a lot of fun. There's certainly advantages to folks in the software game to just focus on one customer size or one industry or one geography. For us, we're more of a horizontal platform. So we have customers across any industry that you can think of, from nonprofit, higher education, manufacturing, healthcare, finance, of course, a lot of technology firms, across any size, from 1 to 10,000 users, and any geography. So we've got a lot of customers in the technology hotbed cities that you would expect, San Francisco, Boston, Austin, New York, Chicago, et cetera. We've also got a ton of customers overseas. So we're located in Tennessee and California. We've got a lot of customers in Australia, Germany, France, the UK. That makes it a lot of fun. Makes it a lot of work because we're no stranger to doing midnight demonstrations of Cirrus Insight for customers in Australia. But we love that. It's fun to know that teams down under are getting tremendous value from our software.
Very nice. Well, I encourage everyone who's listening to click on the link below, learn more about Cirrus Insight, see how it can help you. Thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate the time.
You got it, Lance. You bet.